In this video, I'm going to show you how to manage your workers within the platform, starting with the ability to import all of your workers in bulk. If I go up to the vertical ellipses here, I see I have three options. I can manually create a worker and add it to the platform, or I can also import from a spreadsheet. So in here, we have the ability to import a number of details for them, such as their first, last name, job title, email, and status. And if you're wondering how that CSV needs to be composed, you can download the sample CSV in here. By downloading the sample CSV, you'll see how it is to be laid out. And in fact, you can just copy and paste from whatever records you currently hold for that. Then you would go select a file in order to do that. And I will do that in this case to show you how that works. So in here, I've gone ahead and uploaded by selecting a file and then selecting the specific CSV file, the data that I now have available to me to import. There are more details on it. By downloading the CSV, you'll see what other options are available for this. But in this case, we show at a minimum the first name, last name, job title, and then email. This email also associates them in a unique way. So obviously there can't be duplicate emails out there. So if we do find a duplicate email, then the fields are just updated in there. And by clicking on Begin Import, it will then import all of these into my list of workers in here. I'm not going to do that for the sake of this video, but if you want to try that, you can give that a go. And of course, you have the ability here to export the workers as well for your own records. Now, as it comes to dealing with a specific worker, we have a couple options here without actually going in to view the worker available to us. One, we can add notes for the specific worker. So this would be useful for communicating maybe between one site manager and another site manager, or somebody who has to take over a specific management of this worker, or for whatever other reason you would be able to allow notes. We leave that fairly loose as to how you want to handle that. We can also see in here how many crews this person actually belongs to, and I'll get into why an individual might belong to more than one crew. By clicking on the name of the individual, we are now presented a few other options for them. At a high level, not a high level, but here on the top, we can see the individual tags that we've applied to the worker. We can also manage those tags. So if we wanted to remove some of them, we could. And then that would, of course, update the worker globally. If we want to add a tag and say the tag doesn't exist, we would just start typing the tag in here. We would then select a specific color for this tag, and then we would click on Add Tag. In this case, I'm not going to do that. That's not really needed in here. We can also swap out the individual's profile photo if you do want to keep profile photos. And we also see in here we have the actual title of this individual's job, and we can very easily update the title in there. There are other places to update the title as well. In here for worker details, we see in a read-only view what details we do have of the individual. We can also see what access they currently have to their profile. This is the TradesLink wallet, which gives them access on their mobile device, offline access to their credentials that you specify in there. And I will show you how this works in a separate video for the wallet. Here we have the ability to edit any of the details for this individual. You can also add in here years of experience. This may or may not be relevant to how you want to use the platform, but if you wanted to sort your people by the years of experience they have, you would be able to do that in here. Here we have a list of their credentials. Credentials could be documents you use for onboarding. They could be a specific safety ticket that they have. It could also represent if they're a journeyman or a first or second year, whatever the case might be in there. This is where we would have the repository of all of their credentials or documents that we want to hold on to. A couple of things that we see in here. One, we can obviously see when it was issued, when it expires, when the last update request was sent, if an update request was actually sent. I'll show you how that feature works in a moment. And we can also see the visibility. So in this case, we do allow those who are either the worker or if this credential belongs to a crew that we've shared. I'll get into that feature as we discuss crews. if this credential will actually show up or not. In here, we can also see if this credential has a file attached. In this case, the ammonia awareness does not have an actual file attached, so we just basically have the details to say we know that this credential exists, but we don't have a physical copy on hand, or a digital copy, I should say, in this case. In here, we can add credentials by clicking on Add a Credential in here. There's two ways to add a credential. One, we can add it in here manually, or we can upload a number of files. And then when those files are parsed on the back end, they will automatically populate the details from the actual document that you've uploaded and populate and add the document so that you can actually see what that document is in here by clicking Upload Files. I will not go through this specific feature at the moment, but it is fairly self-explanatory. You would just click Upload Files, go to your desktop, and go to the folder and then select the files that you want to upload and apply to this specific worker in here. All right. In here, you would toggle whether or not it's visible to a shared crew or to a worker. This functionality is also available on the editing side. So when you edit the credential, you will be able to add or remove access to the specific credential. Once you've added them, they do show up in here. These ones, for example, at the bottom, from point of care all the way down to fit for work, were ones that were uploaded using the parsing functionality that we provide there, as you saw in the credentials. We also give you the ability to internally assess these credentials. So as the example that we often use, maybe somebody's a forklift driver and they have a certificate to drive a forklift. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're a good forklift driver. Depends, of course, on their years of experience and perhaps their competency within that particular skill. In here, we are able to provide additional notes about this person's particular credential that they have. So for advanced rigging, this is an example of a note that I've added for this particular credential. And you can add additional ones over time. So as somebody progresses within a particular skill or credential they have, you would be able to communicate internally what their actual competency is within your organization. We have the ability to view the credential in here. I'll go down to one of the ones that we actually uploaded. So say audiometric test clearance, we can view the credential file in here. Okay, by clicking on that, all the details we have. And we're also able to do things like request that they update something. So in this case, for example, we might say basic first aid. First aid is typically something you're going to want to have in your wallet. So you'll want to actually have the digital copy of this file on hand. And perhaps we don't have that access to that internally. So what we're going to do is we'll request an update for that. This message goes out to the worker that possesses it. So you do have to have an email for the worker. In this case, Brian Bailey does have an email, and I would very simply do this by saying what it is I want. So I could say, please add a physical copy of this item in here. So I will go ahead and confirm that, and this will send off an email to them to let them know they need to upload or modify that. If we want to actually view that request that we've sent, we can very easily do that. This here sends us to the link where we're actually able to upload that particular document, should we wish. This is also looks good on mobile devices. And this is essentially what Brian Bailey would receive in his email. So whether he's on his computer or he's on his mobile device, he will be able to upload this specific document and perhaps modify the details, such as when it was issued or expires within here. And then once they click on Update Credential, this link is no longer valid within here. If we made a mistake, maybe we found the document, then what we can very easily do is we can withdraw this particular update request. And this basically invalidates the link itself. Editing the credential is fairly straightforward. I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to actually add a credential type for this one. So we might say this is a compliance certificate, and we might want to have this one, because it's first aid shared, visible to shared crews. So I'll go ahead and update that. And you can see the credential was updated successfully, and the details in here, such as its visibility, were provided for us. We can also remove the credential in here without issue. Another item I will go through is the credential issuer. So in this case, we don't actually have a credential issuer specified. In the previous video where I showed you the high-level overview, in credentials, we have the ability to define those that perhaps you work with on a regular basis to know who it is that actually issued this certificate, so that if you want to send them back for training, you can do that fairly easily. So in here, I would just select from my list of credential issuers. I would click update, and now we can see who the individual was that actually provided this particular credential for us. And I can close that in there. This is a list of all open requests that we might have sent off to a worker. As you saw over on this page, we can withdraw the update request, and we can also withdraw the update request from here as well. Here we're able to see which crews this particular individual belongs to, and we're also able to add some notes that would apply to this particular individual, or this particular worker. This add note functionality is the same as this add note functionality in here. So that's a high-level overview of workers. There's more functionality for workers as it pertains to crews, adding them to crews, tracking specific credentials, which is what we will view in another video.